Yeah. Yeah, I think it's really cool. Well, yeah, one thing I want to touch on as well is, I guess, your experience with this mental health area. What tips do you have for someone to check in with someone? Is there any, like, Aiden, you're saying you send a message. Is there any other things that you guys do, or any even things to look for in someone that, yeah, they're not doing okay? How can we realize that earlier?
It's a good question. And when I speak about this, I'm not speaking in any professional capacity whatsoever. I'm
Yeah.
not going to claim that I'm anything like that. But the way that I usually look out for, signs of someone possibly going through things is usually kind of the obvious signs, right? So maybe not reaching out as often. Maybe you've noticed they're not spending time doing the things that they actually like doing. Even things like you reach out to them and you make plans and they say, hey, they're going up until the date and then they bail and they're like, oh, I'm just so busy with everything else. One thing that I've noticed, especially for people who tend to be, type A, got to get stuff done, got to finish everything. One thing that I've really noticed what they do when it comes to mental health issues is they bury themselves in work. So they'll be like, oh, I'm too busy. I've got to build this thing. I've got to build that thing. I've got to do this. I've got this other meeting. And if you've noticed that they're doing what more often than not, then that's a good sign to be like, okay, well, is it that you're actually busy or are you just trying to give yourself a lot of busy work to distract yourself from something else? So really, and once again, it all just boils down to just ask them a simple question. Hey, are you actually okay? And if you got a good enough relationship, or even if you don't, they might just be like, you know what, I'm actually not. And it goes from there.
So I will say also that I'm not professional. Like neither of us are. We just have personal experiences, and there's ample literature on this from resources like Beyond Blue or Headspace. That if you're really interested, you can go and look up yourself and become acquainted with what the signs look like, what the symptoms of depression and anxiety and other conditions look like that people may be going through, whether they admit it or not. But something that's not talked about that often, it is not coming across as performative without, and so not asking that question out of the blue, like, are you okay, without first building a sense of vulnerability and trust.
That's very important. Very important.
This is one of the problems that I see sometimes with initiatives like the Are You Okay Day. Right? If you ask a question just for the sake of asking it because it's that day, no one's going to give you a straight answer. But if you take the time to build a relationship and create a space where they feel like, I'm not going to suffer ramifications of this. Like if you talk to HR at work or something like that, and it's a conversation born out of genuine connection, then that's usually a lot more conducive.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important. I totally agree. Definitely. One thing, I've got one more question for you guys before we wrap up, and that is, we've spoken about this mental health and how that's so important. And it's important to check on your friends and things like that.